Before we begin, thank you for choosing to spend your time here. I wish you tremendous success in both your personal and financial life. Without further delay, let's dive in. Chapter 1. The invisible map of your wealth. What if I told you that the person driving that luxury Ferrari could be just one bad decision away from total ruin, while the gardener tending their lawn with dirty hands and work clothes might be financially indestructible? We live surrounded by the illusion of wealth, thinking money is measured by what we see. But you're about to discover the truth. Wealth isn't what you have, it's what others don't see. It's not an exact science, it's an art dominated by psychology. In the next few minutes, we'll dismantle the biggest lie about money and hand you the first key to building real, lasting fortune. One that doesn't depend on your salary, but on your mind. Let's start by tearing down the first myth. When you see someone make a financial decision that seems absurd to you, like spending a fortune on something trivial, or conversely saving every penny with a greed that borders on madness, it's easy to judge. We think, how irrational, how stupid. But here lies the first great secret of money. Nobody, absolutely nobody, is a financial lunatic. What seems crazy to you is pure common sense to someone else. Every decision we make about money, however strange it appears from the outside, is filtered through the unique lens of our personal history. Nobody has walked exactly your same path. Nobody has felt your same fears or dreamed your same ambitions. Imagine someone who grew up in a country devoured by hyperinflation, watching their family's savings turn to dust overnight. For that person, the idea of keeping cash under the mattress isn't conservative, it's financial suicide. Their internal logic, forged in the fire of crisis, screams that they must convert that money into tangible assets immediately. Now think of someone who grew up in a stable economy, where their parents prospered, with a secure job and a pension plan. For that person, the idea of investing in something as volatile as cryptocurrency might seem like a casino gamble, an unnecessary risk. Both are right from their own perspective. Their decisions aren't a reflection of their intelligence, but of their biography. The next time you see someone act incomprehensibly with their money, pause. Instead of judging, ask yourself, what invisible story lies behind that decision? And more importantly, what story have I told myself about money? Understanding this is the true starting point. But our personal history isn't the only invisible factor governing our financial lives. There are twin forces, as powerful as they are silent, that decide destinies, luck and risk. We love to believe in merit. We adore stories of the self-made entrepreneur, the genius who triumphed against all odds. We assume success is a direct reward for effort and intelligence, and that failure is the just punishment for mistakes. But this view, though comforting, is dangerously incomplete. Take the story of Bill Gates. We see him as the archetype of the visionary, but few know the incredible stroke of luck that changed his life. In the 1960s, when computers were exotic and expensive monsters, Gates' exclusive school in Seattle received a donation that allowed them to have an advanced computer. It was one of the very few high schools in the entire world with such access. That coincidence gave teenage Bill Gates thousands of hours of advantage over the rest of his generation. Of course he had innate talent, but that talent was watered by a rain of luck that nobody else had. Now contrast his story with that of his best friend, Kent Evans. They shared the same passion, the same intelligence, and the same dream of conquering the world with technology. Yet Kent Evans never founded a multi-billion-dollar company. He died in a mountaineering accident before finishing high school. He didn't fail by making bad decisions. He failed because risk, luck's dark twin, crossed his path. His story, like millions of others, reminds us that success is never 100% our own merit, and failure is never 100% our own fault. Understanding this makes us more humble when we win and more compassionate when we lose. The first step to mastering the money game is accepting that we don't control all the pieces. We're playing on a board where our personal psychology and the whims of chance dictate much of the outcome. Chapter 2. The anchor in the storm if. The money game is shaped by luck and our personal history. Does that mean we're simply leaves carried by the wind, adrift in an ocean of uncertainty? Not quite, because while we can't control the wind or the waves, we can build an anchor. And it's urgent that we do, because there exists a mental, Trap, an endless race that ensnares both the poor and the millionaires, that pushes us toward ruin regardless of how much luck we have. It's the silent poison of more. To understand its destructive power, let's journey into the life of Rajat Gupta. Born in absolute poverty in India, Gupta used his brilliant intellect to climb to the top of the corporate world, becoming the managing director of McKinsey & Company, one of the most prestigious consulting firms on the planet. His personal fortune exceeded $100 million. He had power, prestige, and more than enough money to live 1,000 lives of luxury. He had everything. But for him, it wasn't enough. He looked around at the bankers and magnates of Wall Street and felt small. The money game has no finish line. It always moves just ahead of you. And that insatiable desire led him to make the worst decision of his life. He became involved in an insider trading network to gain a few extra $1 million, money he didn't need in the slightest. He was discovered, tried, and sent to prison. His name, his reputation, and his freedom turned to ashes. Why? Why did a man who had everything risk his entire world for a little more? The answer is the comparison trap. When you don't have your own definition of enough, you use others as your reference point. And in the world, there will always be someone with more. This endless race leads you to take stupid risks, to sacrifice your peace, and ultimately, to lose everything. The cure for this poison can be found in another story, that of legendary investor John Bogle. At a party in an extravagant mansion, someone commented that the host had earned more money in a single day than Bogle had accumulated in his entire life. Without flinching, Bogle responded with one of the wisest phrases in financial history. "Yes, but I have something he'll never have." Intrigued, the other person asked, "And what's that?" Bogle smiled and said, "Enough, that's the anchor. Knowing what your enough is the only way to get off the hamster wheel and start enjoying the journey. Defining your enough is the internal part of your anchor, but you also need to protect yourself from external chaos. The financial world is unpredictable by nature. History is a graveyard of failed predictions. In 2007, the world's brightest economists believed the economy was solid as a rock. Months later, the global financial system collapsed. In early 2020, nobody imagined that a pandemic would paralyze the planet and revolutionize the economy. Every major event that has shaped our world has arrived by surprise. Believing we can accurately predict the future of markets is an arrogance that's paid for dearly. The lesson is clear and liberating. Stop trying to guess the future. Instead, prepare for it. Being financially resilient is key. It's not about avoiding the storm, because storms will always come. It's about ensuring your ship can withstand it. How? First, build a solid emergency fund. That money isn't for investing, it's your insurance against chaos. Second, diversify. Never bet your entire future on a single card, whether it's a stock, a business, or a cryptocurrency. History is full of empires that seemed invincible, and today are just memories. Third, always live with a margin of safety. Spend less than you earn so that an unexpected event doesn't become a disaster. And fourth, avoid bad debt like the plague, because it's the anchor that sinks you instead of stabilizing you. These strategies aren't exciting. They won't make you rich overnight, but they'll make you something far more important: unbreakable. They'll allow you to survive uncertainty, so you can keep playing the long game, which is where true wealth is built. Chapter 3. Buying sunrises. So what is that supreme luxury? That true treasure that money, if used wisely, can get us. It's not a yacht. It's not a mansion. It's not a diamond watch. The answer is a single word. But it contains the entire universe: time. The true measure of wealth isn't how much money you have, but how much control you have over your time. This is the great paradox of our era. We spend most of our adult lives exchanging our time, our most finite and precious resource, for money. We fall into a cycle where we work at jobs that often consume us, to buy things we don't need to impress people who don't even care about us. And in the process, the resource that depletes mercilessly, the only one we can never recover, is our time. It's a perfect trap, a cycle that leaves us exhausted, anxious, and fundamentally empty. To illustrate this, imagine two lives. The first is Carlos, a high-level executive. He earns $500,000 a year, wears expensive suits, drives a German car, and lives in a breathtaking house. From the outside, he's the embodiment of success. But let's observe his reality. His day starts before dawn, checking emails from another time zone. He works 80 hours a week, chaining together meetings where the pressure is palpable. His phone is an incessant source of notifications, an invisible leash tying him to his work, even at family dinner. Sunday afternoon, he feels that familiar anxiety, the weight of Monday approaching. He lives for brief weekend escapes, which he often spends too tired to enjoy. His time doesn't belong to him. It's owned by his career, his goals, others' expectations. Now meet Luis. Luis has a small online business. He earns $70,000 a year, a fraction of what Carlos earns. He lives in a simple apartment and drives a modest car, but Luis designs his days. He works 25 hours a week from wherever he wants. He takes his kids to school every morning without rushing. He has the freedom to take a Tuesday off just because the sun is shining and he feels like reading in a park. His mind is clear, his sleep is deep. He doesn't live with Sunday anxiety. Now I ask you again, who is truly rich? Society has programmed us to admire Carlos, but true wealth, measured in autonomy and peace of mind, belongs to Luis. The greatest dividend money can pay is the ability to wake up every morning and say, "Today I'll do exactly what I want to do." The fundamental error that distances us from Luis's life is falling into the trap of spending money to prove we have money. It's the status trap. We buy the luxury car not for its engineering, but so others will admire us. But here's a secret nobody tells you. When you drive by in a Ferrari, people don't admire you. They don't think, "Wow, what an incredible person that must be." They think, "Wow, if I had that car, people would think I'm incredible." You're using your wealth to fuel others' fantasies in an exhausting and useless game. This is why Morgan Housel introduces a revolutionary concept. The money you don't spend is the purest form of wealth. Why? Because every dollar you save isn't just a dollar. It's a piece of your future that you're buying from the present. It's a portion of freedom in its purest state. The money in your savings account gives you options. It gives you the power to say no. No to a project that violates your principles. No to a toxic boss. No to a life defined by fear. It gives you the ability to change careers at 40, to take 6 months to care for a sick family member, to weather a medical emergency without panic. Visible money, what's spent on luxuries, buys momentary pleasures. Invisible money, what's saved, buys lasting freedom. Once you cover your basic needs and some comforts, each additional dollar doesn't significantly increase your happiness if you spend it, but it exponentially increases your freedom if you save it. Wealth, therefore, isn't a high salary. Wealth is having enough savings and investments to live life on your own terms. It's the tranquility of knowing your future doesn't depend on your next paycheck. Chapter 4. The Silent Architect. Patience. It sounds simple, almost boring. In a world obsessed with speed, immediate results, and the next big score, patience seems like a weak virtue, a relic from another era. But you're about to discover that in the universe of money, patience isn't passivity. It's the most devastating and underestimated superpower of all. It's the force that allows time to become your greatest ally. The silent architect that builds your fortune while you sleep, work, or simply live your life. The key isn't making brilliant moves, but staying in the game long enough for the magic to happen. That magic has a name: compound interest. Albert Einstein supposedly called it the eighth wonder of the world. It's such a powerful force because it's not linear, it's exponential. At first, its effect is almost imperceptible. A small amount of money generating a little interest seems insignificant, but that interest generates its own interest, and then that new total generates even more. It's like a snowball rolling downhill. It starts small, but with enough time and slope, it becomes an unstoppable avalanche. The best human example of this force is Warren Buffett. We consider him an investment genius, and he is. But his true genius doesn't lie in his strategies, it lies in his longevity. Buffett started investing at age 10. Today, at over 90 years old, the vast majority of his fortune, more than 99%, was earned after he turned 50, and more than 90% after age 65. Think about that. If Buffett had been a brilliant investor, but retired at 60 to play golf, the world would barely know his name. His true fortune wasn't created by his brain, it was created by his calendar. Time is the main ingredient in the recipe for wealth. The problem is that impatience is compound interest's mortal enemy. People want results now. They buy and sell frantically, chase the latest trend, panic at every market drop. Every time they do that, they stop the snowball and roll it back up to the top of the hill, losing their most valuable asset, time. But the compound interest engine needs fuel to function. That fuel isn't a big salary or a stroke of luck. It's the simple, methodical, and powerful habit of saving. Wealth in its purest form isn't a function of how much you earn, but of how much you manage to keep. The story of Ronald Read is the definitive proof. Ronald wasn't a Wall Street executive. He was a janitor in a department store and a mechanic at a gas station. He lived a frugal life without luxuries, almost invisible to society. Nobody would have guessed his secret. When he died at 92, he left a fortune of $8 million. How? He didn't win the lottery. He didn't discover a secret investment. His method was incredibly simple. He lived below his means, saved every dollar he could, and consistently invested it in shares of solid companies. And then, most importantly, he never touched them. He let the silent architect, time, do its work for decades. His story proves that wealth building is often more about psychology and discipline than about income and intelligence. You have almost total control over your savings. In contrast, you have zero control over market returns or the economy. That's why saving is the foundation, the bedrock upon which patience can build a skyscraper. Focusing on increasing your savings rate has a more direct and certain impact on your financial future than trying to find the next great investment. Saving is buying your future freedom, and patience is the custodian that protects and grows it. Chapter 5. Ghosts in the Wallet. Here we are at the heart of confusion, the greatest scam we play on ourselves. What is this dangerous illusion? It's the belief that being rich and looking rich are the same thing, but they're worlds apart, often completely opposite. Modern society, with social media as its megaphone, bombards us with images of success, luxury cars, exotic vacations, expensive watches. And seeing them, we assume that's what wealth looks like. But that's not wealth, it's consumption. It's proof of money someone has spent, not of what they possess. True wealth is invisible. It's money that hasn't been spent, stocks that haven't been sold, savings growing silently in an account. Wealth is the financial freedom those unspent assets provide you. Think of it this way. Financial well-being is like physical health. Someone can buy the most expensive workout clothes, have the latest technology to measure their performance, and post gym photos every day. They may look incredibly fit, but true health is invisible. It's their blood pressure, their cardiovascular endurance, their ability to lift weight or run without exhaustion. Similarly, someone might drive a $250,000 car, financed to the last penny, living with a noose of debt around their neck. They look rich, but their financial life is fragile. They're one step away from collapse. On the other hand, you might have a neighbor who drives a 10-year-old car, lives in a modest house, but has silently accumulated an investment portfolio that would allow them to live the rest of their life without working. They don't look rich, but they're financially indestructible. The first person has the appearance of wealth. The second possesses the reality of wealth. Confusing one with the other is the most common and dangerous financial mistake. Why do we fall so easily into this trap? Here's where another peculiarity of our mind comes into play: the seduction of pessimism. Bad news and dramatic warnings always seem smarter and more credible to us than good news. An analyst predicting economic collapse sounds like a profound genius. Someone saying things will probably improve in the long term sounds naive. This pessimistic bias has a curious effect on our finances. It makes us doubt our own progress. The path to true wealth is slow, methodical, and frankly boring. It's Ronald Read's story, the janitor saving dollar by dollar for decades. When we follow this path, our internal pessimism whispers that it's not working, that it's too slow, that we'll never get there. Then we look outward and see others' false and noisy wealth on social media, and we fall into the trap. We think they're doing it right. Their strategy works. The combination of our pessimism about our own slow process and our naive admiration for others' rapid and visible consumption is toxic. It pushes us to abandon solid plans, to chase ghosts, to go into debt to maintain a facade, and to play a game we can't win. The next time you feel envious of someone's lifestyle, remember you're only seeing the tip of the consumption iceberg. You have no idea about the mountain of debt or the void of savings that might lie beneath. The true indicator of your success isn't how well you're doing compared to others. It's whether you're meeting your own goals and building your own peace of mind. Chapter 6. The Inner Hurricane. Welcome to the battlefield, a place where logic, the best laid plans, and spreadsheets are constantly defeated by two relentless generals, fear and greed. You can read all the books, follow all the experts, and have the perfect strategy. But if you don't master the hurricane raging inside your own mind, you're destined to become your own worst saboteur. The greatest risk in your finances isn't the market, isn't the economy, isn't your boss. It's you. Within our financial brain operate several saboteurs. First is fear. It's a cold voice that whispers in your ear during a market crash. Sell everything. This is going to zero. Protect what little you have left. Fear makes you forget your long-term plan and forces you to make short-term survival decisions, like selling your assets at the worst possible moment, materializing losses that only existed on paper. Then there's its twin brother, greed. Greed is the euphoria you feel when an investment skyrockets. It shouts at you, invest more, take out a loan. This is the opportunity of your life, don't miss it. Greed blinds you to risk, makes you buy at the peak of the bubble, and convinces you that the laws of financial gravity don't apply to you. Alongside them marches envy, which forces you to measure your success with others' rulers, pushing you to buy liabilities you can't afford just to maintain an appearance. And finally, overconfidence, the most subtle of all, that makes you believe you're smarter than average, that you can predict market movements, leading you to concentrate all your money in a single risky bet. If you think financial decisions are made with a calculator, you're wrong. They're made with your heart in your throat in moments of maximum pressure. This emotional hurricane wouldn't unleash with such force if the financial world were a predictable and orderly place. But it's not. It's a chaotic system, where surprise is the only constant rule. The reason our emotions betray us so violently is because the world will ambush us again and again. Nobody predicted the magnitude of the 2008 crisis. Nobody saw the pandemic's impact coming. Nobody knows with certainty what technology will dominate the next decade. Each of these surprise events acts like a lit match thrown onto the gasoline of our emotions. An unexpected crisis ignites the flame of fear. An unexpected technological boom ignites the flame of greed. Understanding this is fundamental. Since you can't predict surprises, your only defense is to predict and control your own reaction to them. The game isn't won by having a crystal ball. It's won by having an immovable emotional anchor when the storm inevitably arrives. Your behavior when facing the unexpected is the factor that will most determine your long-term success or failure. So how do we forge that shield? How do we tame the inner hurricane? The key isn't trying to eliminate emotions. That's impossible. It's creating systems that protect us from them. First, automation. The best financial decision is the one you don't have to make. Set up automatic transfers to your savings and investment accounts every month. Do it the first day after you get paid. Pay yourself first and let the system work for you without your impulsivity or fear interfering. Second, create predefined rules, a personal financial constitution. For example, I will never sell my investments out of panic. I'll only do so if my life circumstances fundamentally change. Write these rules when you're calm and rational, so they're your guide when you're scared and emotional. Third, always maintain a margin of safety. Having an emergency fund in cash is the best financial tranquilizer that exists. Knowing you can survive 6 months without income gives you the calm to not make desperate decisions during a crisis. These systems are your air raid shelter. You build them in times of peace, so they'll save your life in times of war. Chapter 7. The Impregnable Fortress. The grand theater of money. Most people are obsessed with the act of winning. They want the ovation, the spotlight, the master play that catapults them to wealth overnight. But they ignore the most important rule, the one whispered quietly in the circles of true masters: to be able to win, you must first ensure you don't lose. Financial survival precedes wealth, always. If compound interest is the force that builds your fortune, survival is the shield that gives it the necessary time to do so. The world's most famous investor, Warren Buffett, has an investment philosophy that can be summarized in 2 simple rules. Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. When Buffett says don't lose money, he's not referring to one of your stocks never dropping in price. That's impossible. He's referring to avoiding at all costs a permanent and catastrophic loss of capital. He's referring to avoiding ruin, because the mathematics of money is brutal in this regard. If you lose 50% of your capital, you need a 100% gain just to get back to your starting point. A single massive loss can erase a decade of patient gains. That's why, although spectacular offensives grab the headlines, a good defense is what wins championships. In your personal finances, your defense is your fortress. It's having an emergency fund, avoiding high-interest debt, diversifying your investments, and above all, having the humility to know you're not invincible. To understand the danger of forgetting this rule, we must know the tragic story of Jesse Livermore, considered one of the greatest speculative geniuses in history. In the early 20th century, Livermore was a Wall Street legend. He accumulated and lost several colossal fortunes, earning the equivalent of billions of today's dollars. He predicted the famous crash of 1929 and made a fortune while the rest of the world crumbled. He was brilliant, bold, and fearless. But he had a fatal flaw. He didn't know when to stop. Every time he reached the top, instead of protecting his capital and building his fortress, he bet even harder, seeking the next big score. His genius for winning was only comparable to his inability to survive. Finally, a series of bad bets annihilated him completely. He died in bankruptcy and despair. Livermore's story is the rawest lesson on the difference between getting rich and staying rich. Getting rich may require audacity and a bit of luck. Staying rich requires something completely different: humility and paranoia. It requires the wisdom to know that past success doesn't guarantee future success, and the discipline to resist the temptation to risk what you have and need for something you don't have and don't need. So how do you build your own impregnable fortress? The first brick is financial humility. There's the simple recognition that the world is uncertain and that you might be wrong. This humility will naturally lead you to diversification, not putting all your eggs in one basket, no matter how promising it appears. The second brick is patience, but not just to wait for your assets to grow, patience to do nothing. In a world that glorifies action, the ability to sit and wait, resisting the need to react to every piece of news, is an elite survival skill. And the third brick, the most important, is understanding that wealth isn't a sprint, it's an endurance race. The goal isn't to get the highest returns in 1 year, but to get decent and consistent returns for the longest time possible. The person who wins isn't the hare that runs at full speed and gets exhausted. It's the tortoise that advances steadily and, crucially, never falls off a cliff. Chapter 8. The pendulum and the price. Welcome to the emotional roller coaster of finance. At the peak, when the sun shines and the market rises without stopping, euphoria floods us, convincing us we've cracked the code, that this time is different, and that prosperity will last forever. At the bottom, when darkness falls and the numbers are tinged with red, panic whispers in our ear that the world as we know it is ending. The truth, however, rarely lives in these feverish extremes. Financial reality almost always resides in a much calmer and more boring center. The great pendulum of market psychology constantly swings between unsustainable greed and irrational fear. But wisdom consists of staying still in the center. Let's remember the dot-com bubble of the late 1990s. The euphoria was total. People believed any company with .com in its name was a guaranteed gold mine. Taxi drivers quit their jobs to speculate full-time. Money was invested in absurd ideas that made no sense whatsoever. The pendulum was at the extreme of greed. When the bubble burst, that same pendulum crashed to the other extreme: panic. People sold everything, swearing never to invest in technology again. Just when some of the century's best companies like Amazon were selling at bargain prices, The same thing happened in the 2008 crisis and in the 2020 pandemic crash. First complacency, then absolute terror. The mistake is believing that the sentiment of the moment will last forever. It won't. Neither the good times are as permanent as they seem, nor the bad times are as catastrophic as they feel. Progress happens amid stumbles. Understanding this allows you to maintain calm and perspective when everyone around you is losing their head. But how do you maintain that calm? How do we avoid being dragged by the pendulum? We achieve it by radically changing our perception of volatility. We must understand that uncertainty, doubt, fear, and market drops aren't a fine you pay for doing something wrong. They're the price of admission. They're the cost you must pay to obtain the long-term returns the market offers. Nothing is free. Do you want the benefits of a college education? You have to pay the price of study, effort, and tuition. Do you want the benefits of being in good physical shape? You have to pay the price of sweat, discipline, and muscle pain. Similarly, if you want to obtain the benefits of long-term investing, which has historically outperformed almost any other form of wealth creation, you must be willing to pay the price. And that price is the emotional roller coaster. It's seeing your portfolio value drop 20 or 30% and not panicking. It's enduring years of mediocre returns. It's doubting your own strategy. When you manage to see that drop not as a loss but as the toll you're paying for a prosperous future, your mentality changes completely. You stop being a victim of the market and become an investor who understands the rules of the game. You accept the cost as normal and necessary instead of fighting against it. This understanding is your anchor in the center of the pendulum. When things go incredibly well and everyone around you is euphoric, you'll remember that trees don't grow to the sky, and you'll maintain your humility and discipline. You won't be carried away by greed. When things get ugly and the news screams apocalypse, you'll take a deep breath and tell yourself, "This is the price I'm willing to pay for my future freedom," and you won't sell in panic. This mentality doesn't make you insensitive, it makes you resilient. It allows you to separate facts from feelings and act based on your long-term plan, not short-term noise. Financial success isn't found in the extremes of the pendulum, but in the serene strength of those who decide not to ride it. Chapter 9. The Mirror and the Compass. We've traveled through psychology, history, and human behavior. We've learned about the power of patience, the anchor of frugality, and the need for an impregnable fortress. We've gathered the tools. Now we arrive at the most crucial point of all. What do we do with all this? Because if there's one final truth in the world of money, it's this: there's no universally correct strategy. There's no single map that serves all travelers. The best financial plan isn't found in a book or on a spreadsheet. It's found in the mirror. This is where the book's original author, Morgan Housel, makes his own confession. He reveals that despite all his knowledge, his personal plan isn't one that maximizes every penny or seeks the highest possible returns. His plan is designed with a single objective in mind, helping him sleep well at night. And this is perhaps the deepest lesson of all. The purpose of a financial plan isn't to win at all costs. It's to obtain the greatest amount of peace of mind possible. His strategy is based on incredibly simple principles. Maintaining a very high savings rate, because saving is under his control and buys him freedom. Investing in low-cost index funds and not touching them, because simplicity reduces the likelihood of making mistakes. Keeping a portion of his wealth in cash, more than any financial model would recommend, because cash gives him flexibility, options, and above all, tranquility during crises. His plan isn't optimal on paper, but it's perfectly rational for him because it aligns with his personality, his fears, and his goals. It's a plan he can maintain without doubting in good times and bad. And here's where we connect with another powerful idea. In finance, believing firmly in your plan is more important than whether that plan is objectively perfect. Your financial strategy is the story you tell yourself about your future. If you don't believe in that story with every fiber of your being, you'll abandon it at the first sign of trouble. If your advisor convinces you to invest in an aggressive portfolio that promises great gains, but you're a person who values security above all else, what do you think will happen when the market drops 30%? You'll panic, sell at the worst moment, and sabotage your own future. The plan, though perfect in theory, will have failed in practice. That's why the first step in designing your strategy isn't asking, "What will give me more money?" but What strategy aligns with who I am and will allow me to stay the course no matter what happens? The world's best strategy is useless if you can't stick to it. You must build a narrative you fully trust, one that reminds you why you're saving, why you're investing, and what your true ultimate goal is. To forge this plan, your personal compass, you must ask yourself a series of honest questions while looking in the mirror. First, what do I really want money to do for me? Is it security, freedom, power, options, experiences? Be specific. Second, what's my real risk tolerance? Not what I think it should be, but what I feel in my stomach. What level of loss would let me sleep at night? Third, what's my time horizon? Am I investing for my retirement in 30 years or to buy a house in 5? The answer changes everything. And fourth, the most important question we've already explored, what is my enough? Define that number, that lifestyle that would give you peace. Once you answer these questions, not with your head but with your heart, you'll start to see the contours of your own map, a map that will belong only to you, designed to lead you to your own treasure, a free and fulfilling financial life. Chapter 10. The Inner Lighthouse. We've reached the end of our journey together, but the true beginning of yours. You've learned to forge an anchor against chaos, to use the mirror and compass to find your north, and to raise an impregnable fortress. Now it's time to light the lighthouse. A lighthouse built not with bricks but with principles, a legacy of wisdom that will illuminate your financial decisions for the rest of your life. You don't need to remember every story or every fact from this content. You only need to engrave these final principles in your mind, the great truths about the psychology of money. The first principle: wealth is silent. Spending is loud. Never forget this. Society will scream that success is a luxury car, a huge house, a shiny watch. But that's just consumption, evidence of money that's gone forever. True wealth is invisible. It's savings that aren't touched, investments that mature in silence, unspent money that buys something no luxury can offer. Freedom. Stop playing the appearances game, because it's a race designed for you to lose. Instead, play the independence game. Build wealth that nobody sees, but that you feel in every moment of tranquility and in every decision you make without fear. The second principle: accept uncertainty as the price of admission. The financial world is and always will be volatile and unpredictable. There will be crises, crashes, and moments of panic. Don't see these events as a penalty for having done something wrong. They're the toll you must pay to access the extraordinary returns that long-term investing can offer. Nothing valuable in this life is free. Fear, doubt, and volatility are the admission price to the amusement park of wealth creation. Learn to pay that price gladly, knowing it's the investment you're making in your future. Those who understand this stop being victims of the market and become long-term partners. The third principle: time is your most valuable capital. Patience is your most powerful tool. Your greatest financial advantage isn't the size of your salary or your IQ, it's your time horizon. The magic of compound interest, the silent architect, only works if you give it decades to build. Don't interrupt its work. Don't let yourself be seduced by speed. In the money game, the tortoise that advances steadily without falling off a cliff always beats the hare that runs at full speed toward disaster. Be the tortoise. Give time to time. The fourth principle: avoid ruin at all costs. To win, you must first survive. You don't need to find the next great investment that multiplies your money by 100. What you need is to avoid the colossal error that divides your wealth to zero. A single reckless decision, a single excessive bet can destroy a lifetime of disciplined saving. Humility is your shield, diversification is your armor, and the ability to say "this is enough for me" is your secret weapon. The goal isn't to maximize gains at any cost. The goal is to ensure your permanence in the game forever. And the fifth and final principle, the one that unites them all: know yourself. Money isn't managed on a spreadsheet. It's managed in the chaotic and wonderful space between your ears. You're a human being, not a robot. You have fears, dreams, insecurities, and a unique history. The world's best financial plan is useless if it doesn't align with your personality and doesn't let you sleep at night. Design a strategy that's yours, that resonates with you, that you believe in so firmly you can follow it even in the middle of the worst storm. Because at the end of the day, your behavior is infinitely more important than your technical knowledge. The beginning of your journey, you've completed this journey. Now you possess a new understanding of money. Not as an end, but as a tool. A tool to sculpt a life of autonomy, purpose, and peace. Don't wait for the perfect moment to start. Start today. Automate a small saving. Draw the first line of your financial map. Have an honest conversation with yourself about what enough truly means. Each small step, repeated with patience, will lead you to a destination you can barely imagine today. Remember, the person driving that Ferrari might be drowning in debt, living paycheck to paycheck, one bad month away from losing everything. Meanwhile, the person living modestly in a small house might have quietly accumulated enough wealth to never work another day if they chose not to. The difference between them isn't visible from the outside. It's invisible. It's in their savings accounts, their investment portfolios, their peace of mind, and their ability to sleep soundly at night. True wealth whispers. It doesn't shout. It doesn't need to prove itself to anyone. It simply exists, silently providing options, security, and freedom to those wise enough to build it. Your action plan as we close, let me leave you with concrete steps you can take immediately. Today, write down your definition of enough. Be specific. What annual income would make you comfortable? What size house do you need? What lifestyle truly brings you joy versus what you think will impress others? This week, set up automatic transfers to a savings account. Even if it's just $50 per paycheck, automate it. Remove the decision from your future emotional self. This month, create your emergency fund goal. Calculate 3 to 6 months of essential expenses. This is your financial oxygen mask, your first line of defense against chaos. This quarter, define your investment philosophy. Are you aggressive or conservative? What keeps you up at night? Write down rules you'll follow when emotions run high. I will not sell during a panic. I will not chase hot stocks. I will stay the course. This year, review your progress not against others but against your own goals. Are you sleeping better? Do you have more options? Are you freer than you were 12 months ago? These aren't revolutionary steps. They won't make you a millionaire overnight, but they'll do something far more valuable. They'll make you financially unbreakable. The final truth. Here's what I want you to remember above all else. Financial success isn't about having the most money. It's about having the most peace. Ronald Read, the janitor with $8 million, had more peace than Rajat Gupta, the executive with $100 million and a prison sentence. Luis, earning $70,000 with complete autonomy, has more wealth than Carlos, earning $500,000 as a slave to his schedule. The scoreboard isn't your bank balance. It's your nervous system. It's whether you can enjoy dinner without checking your phone. It's whether you can take a Tuesday afternoon off without guilt. It's whether you wake up excited or anxious. It's whether you're living your life or someone else's idea of what your life should look like. Money is a tool. That's all it is. It's not good or evil. It's not the root of happiness or misery. It's a multiplier of who you already are. If you're miserable chasing more money won't fix that. If you're content with enough, money becomes the enabler of your best life. The invisible map of your wealth isn't drawn on paper. It's drawn in your mind. It's the story you tell yourself about what matters, what's enough, and what you're willing to sacrifice or protect. Draw that map carefully. Draw it honestly, and then follow it with unwavering patience, ignoring the noise, the comparisons, the seductions, and the fears that will constantly try to pull you off course. Because on the other side of that journey, not in 10 years or 20, but starting right now, today, is something more valuable than any amount of money. The peace of knowing you're in control, that you've defined success on your own terms, and that you're building a life worth living, not just a bank account worth bragging about. A final story. Let me leave you with one last image to carry with you. Imagine two people standing on a beach at sunset. The first is wearing a Rolex, fresh off a private jet, posting the moment to social media to capture the perfection. But their mind is elsewhere, on tomorrow's meeting, next quarter's numbers, the deal that might fall through, the competition gaining ground. The second person is wearing a $20 watch, drove their 10-year-old car to a public beach, and isn't taking any photos. But they're completely present. They have nowhere else to be. Their mind is quiet. They're watching their children play in the waves, feeling the sand between their toes, breathing in the salt air, fully alive in this moment. Which person is experiencing the sunset? Which person has achieved wealth? This is the invisible map. This is the psychology of money. This is what we've been talking about all along. It's not about the numbers in your account. It's about what those numbers allow you to feel, experience, and become. Build your fortress, save your money, invest wisely. But never forget why you're doing it. Not to have more than others. Not to prove anything. Not to win a game nobody's actually keeping score of. Do it to buy back your time, to own your days, to sleep soundly, to say no without fear, to say yes without hesitation, to live as yourself, not as a character in someone else's story. That's wealth. That's freedom. That's success. And it's available to you right now today, regardless of your current bank balance. Because it starts not with money, but with a decision. A decision to stop playing the wrong game and start playing the right one. The game isn't on Wall Street or in Silicon Valley or in the mansion on the hill. It's in your mind. And you've just been handed the rules, now go play. Not recklessly, but wisely. Not frantically, but patiently. Not for show, but for substance. Your future self, the one who will exist decades from now, is watching. What will you build for them? What freedom will you buy them? What peace will you secure for them? The answer begins with your next decision. And the one after that, and the one after that. Make them count. Make them yours. And watch as the invisible map of your wealth slowly, steadily, inevitably leads you home. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. Now go create something remarkable. Not with money, but with the life that money used wisely can help you build. The journey is yours. The map is drawn. The lighthouse is lit. Set sail.